Morning. Today is Thursday, a couple weeks before Christmas. Um, and today we're going to talk about how and why most founders basically get stuck on the treadmill, end up having a job, and can't sell their business. That is the primary topics we're going to talk about today. And it's the place that so many business owners get stuck in. And people want to be able to sell their businesses. People want to not have jobs. They want to own a business, not have a job. And we're going to talk about that today. Before I hop into that, first of all, I guess I just want to say go blue. Very Michigan today. But before I hop into that, I want to talk about regular schedule and my plans for this. I understand right now, not a lot, but my plan moving forward with this is I think I want to have a total hourly volume that I want to hit every week, but I need to have some level of regularly scheduled intervals in which I go live and I can use those clips from those lives and I can talk about different topics. So the schedule moving forward is going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. I'm going to go live. Now there's going to be other times where I'll probably go live and I might riff something to get periods. But for now, that is the schedule I'm going to follow, just so that it gives me some rigidity and some structure and make sure that I have to be here to do that. So yeah, that I need to put the website together so that all my links are here for you guys, and I need to put together my YouTube page that has the schedule on there. I obviously won't go live during certain periods like Christmas Day or New Year's Day. My cat's wanted to say hi. Hey, buddy. But other than that, I will be live. No, buddy. Those days. And that's the schedule moving forward. Gonna work really hard not to miss any days and make sure that it's regular. Your favorite show goes live. Or at least they used to. Back in the day, used to have good shows that would go live, once a week or so. Kind of miss those days. But that's what this is going to be like. I'm going to go live during that time, kind of like a news channel, I guess. But anyways, let's hop into what I actually came here to talk about today, which is why people get stuck on the treadmill of running a business, why people can't sell their business, I think a lot of times people talk about this as like a key man risk. If you have a business and you're the owner and not everything, but a mass majority of the part of the business, basically it can't run without you, then you're a key man risk. You can't sell your business. You can't step out of the day to day. Basically, I mean, a good test for this is can you walk away from your business for 2 weeks and come back and the business is still there? And if you can't, then you're still key man risk, right? And which is the irony of the show, I find actually, is that I'm the face of it right now. But what I want to do is build out a show that has other personalities that can run it so that I can be the owner in the background and then operate this. But, being I have time and I can do this and I have commitment, I need things to do, right? I need to be busy. But yeah. And I have notes over here to the right. So if I'm looking over to the right, I'm just checking my notes so that I have stuff to talk about. It's learning how to riff about a topic for an hour is in itself a skill set. So we're gonna work on that. So I guess the first thing I want to talk about is why people get trapped. Why do people get trapped in these spots? People get trapped either at a really low level, like, I'll use the example of a commercial cleaning company because that's what I have. At a lowest level of being trapped in your business is you're the actual cleaner. Like you're delivering the service or the product, like you're making it. I'll use service because it's easier to explain. You're delivering the service yourself. Like if you own a lawn care company, a cleaning company, if you own a digital marketing company, you own a sales company, whatever it is, and you're the one that's actually on the ground delivering that product, you're working in the business and you're working in the business hardcore and you're not working at anything else that's growing your company. You might be delivering the service. You might be delivering it really well. But a lot of people get stuck here for one of two reasons. One is that that first hire feels really expensive. At least that was my experience in it, where the first hire feels really expensive because, in the service industry, your largest expense is going to be your labor. And so that first hire really cuts into how much money you're making in the beginning. And when you're not making a lot, it feels really intense. Um, and then the second thing is that you don't think anybody else can do the job as good as you, which is just a fallacy, by the way. Um, Unless you really are truly world class at something in particular, almost every job can be done by somebody at least to the 90% competency level that you're doing it. And I would argue it's usually better because when you operate a business, there's so many hats that need to be worn, and you're not going to be the best at all of them, especially when you're doing 12 other things. You might think that you're the best cleaner there is, but if you're also trying to run a company, you're trying to grow it, you're doing everything else, and then you're coming in and cleaning a facility at night when you're tired already, you're probably hire somebody and that is their entire job is to clean that facility. They're going to do a significantly better job than you will. And that's just not always the case, but if they can do 90%, that's fine. You know, another tough piece of the puzzle when you are at this level is that when people deal with the founder, talking client perspective, when people deal with the founder, or you are delivering a service as the founder, people want to deal with you. It's like once they deal with you and they talk with you and you can handle issues and do things much quicker than say an employee can, they want to deal with you every time. And if you're the one delivering the service and they know that you're the one delivering the service, they don't want anybody else delivering the service except for you, because the other person's probably not going to do it as good in their eyes, even if they are be as good as you. But if it's not you, it's not the same anymore. And that is a tough growth period where you have to transition from you being in everything, you dealing with the clients, to someone else dealing with the clients, because clients don't like that. And that continues to happen at every level. I find is that, when employees, you hire all your entry level employees, then you hire levels to these employees. All of a sudden, all those employees don't like that they can't reach out to you anymore, but you're too busy to talk to everybody. And so that continues to happen level over level over level. But that essentially is, I think, why a lot of founders, and I think at a higher level, people get trapped because they're not willing to offload some of the decision making. Maybe you're managing the people and maybe you need to hire a general manager for that. But a lot of the times it's just that people do not trust another person to make decisions for them. And they're not willing to make the expensive hire as that person. And so that's the two levels I think people get stuck at. You really see this in companies that are like below 10 million, because once you hit above that, it seems like, your company's bottlenecked. A lot of companies are bottlenecked by the owner. They think that they need to, so that it can be done at the highest level, which may be true. Maybe you are delivering a better service, but if you want to scale your business, you want to really scale it to the next level, you have to let go. You have to let somebody else handle issues. And that's just, it's a difficult pill for people to swallow because they don't like to let go like that. Let's see. Another thing I think that contributes to this idea of being stuck on the treadmill is working on the wrong things. Usually early on, in like really early founder days, where it's like people are really concerned about things that don't matter. Things that matter maybe at some level, but they don't matter at the highest level. Because in the beginning, if you don't have business, you don't have sales, you don't have anything. Nothing else matters. If you don't have a client, there's literally nothing else you should be working on. You should be working on getting clients, because you could have the best onboarding system in the world. You can have the best service delivery in the world. You can have the best everything in the world. If you can't get clients, it doesn't fucking matter, right? And so in the early days, you have to be focused on actually growing the company. But I think that this kind of continues to happen as the company grows, and I've been guilty of this too, where it's like, certain parts of my business start to grow and how much work they require. And the good example for like me in particular is like the accounting. The accounting starts to grow and it becomes more and more of a job. And next thing you know, I'm spending 2-3 hours a day just doing accounting work, invoicing, dealing with client issues and everything, doing the books, whatever. And when you do that, you are taking away time from you doing the same thing that you should have been doing at the low level, which is getting more clients. How do I grow this business? How do I get more clients? How do I market this better? And so that continues to happen time over time. And it's like misdirected work, right? It's like you think you're being productive, but you're actually just doing stagnant work, you know. Um, and this self-inflicted busyness, unproductive, and people also misunderstand how inexpensive it is to actually hire someone to do your books for you, right? You can hire I'm going to shout out my own company here for a second, but you can hire virtual assistants for so much cheaper than you can hire a bookkeeper or a marketing person or a lead generator. Um, because these pillars or these people think is really expensive. Like you want to hire a bookkeeper, you think you're going to have to pay 500 to 1,000 to an outsourced company a month. You can hire somebody so much cheaper for pennies compared to that. That can do your books and do the accounting for you, and frankly, do a better job. Um, and the same is true with sales, marketing, just general admin work, office work. It's so easy, more inexpensive nowadays to hire these people because you can hire them from other countries and they don't need as much to live off of. The pay is just lower, and then we can pay it. But since we live in an expensive country, if you cross the world, we're expensive compared to most people. It's our pay goes along a lot farther for them. Um, I'm excited to have a live audience eventually because just riffing and just talking about a topic for an hour long, especially when it's different topics all the time, is difficult and hard to be prepared for on something for an hour in general. I guess, maybe thinking about that, maybe I create a slideshow and use AI and create a good, easy little slideshow to follow, leave myself alone. Might be useful, to be honest. And then obviously open up for Q&A, which will happen eventually when someone's actually here watching. But that might take time, to be fair. That might just take time. But I do think that's really true. Where it's like the expensive things of hiring people really don't like. They're really up against, and a lot of the times the expense of not to, because what's the price of, I like this quote, and the person I've heard say was Alex Hormozy, but I do like this quote. It's like, what's the price of not knowing how to make $1 million a year? Well, it's $1 million a year. That is the price of it, right? What's the price of not knowing how to make $10 million a year? $10 million a year that you could be making. And hiring the right people that know how to do things for you and can do them better for you than you do them is how you grow a team and how you grow a real business and get rid of being on the treadmill and stuck working in the business. And then you can work on the business, grow the business, etc. I'll talk about my exact story and tell you who I am. If you've never heard of me before, I've never seen my lives before, which no one has at this point. No one has. So everybody here. My name's Kim Tran. I run 3 separate companies right now. Really, it's one company. I run Investera Holdings, which is the family office, which operates 3 other companies right now. We have CT Cleaners LLC, which is the very first company that we started. Not the first company I ever started, but the first one that still exists today, which is a commercial cleaning company, 100% commercial. We acquired a company called Veteran Made, which is a house cleaning company, a quote unquote digital house cleaning company. Whereas instead of having, W-2 employees, we just have 1099 subcontractors employees. And that's how we organize the company. So it's quote unquote digital cleaning company. Obviously the service is still delivered in person, but we don't necessarily need to be there. But frankly, the same is kind of true at this point for CT Cleaners, where we really just need a general manager in place. We're like at that level where I have one of the bottleneck spots that I'm discussing, where we need to place a general manager, which is what we're working on right now. So me and my business partner, my dad Ron, could step out from the day to day. But most of our jobs are handled, and it's really easy. It's just miscellaneous before. And that's the truth. Then we also have a company that we founded recently, which is called Remote Pros, which helps people get virtual assistants. And we help you, we do all the hiring and vetting and training, and then you just get a VA that's placed and can do something that you're looking for them to be able to do. But that is part of my story. That's what I do now. But how did I get here? Um, I started CT cleaners about 4 years ago now, like just at the end of COVID. Um, so it's almost been 5 years, calendar years, 'cause it's be 2026 soon. I started at the end of COVID, and I started with just putting everything out there. I put a bunch of information out on Facebook, all free in groups and stuff, and find clients. And I ended up landing a couple houses in the beginning. And then eventually we ran some Google ads. And then with Google ads, we landed our first commercial client. And then we landed our first big commercial client ever, which is kind of a funny story because we still to this day have no idea how we got that client. Um, it's a big, like, well-known client in our area, and it was like the first big, like, breakthrough moment for CT. And we don't know how we got it. But I mean, I guess we were just pushing. And I think that's something to be said for that, where it's like, we got lucky, but lucky is also just being in the right place at the right time, right? Like, we placed ourselves in a position to be able to get lucky. And so if we hadn't have got that client, and as long as we had kept pushing, I'm sure we would have eventually got something. But that was like the breakthrough moment for business in general for us. And then as we've evolved and grown this company, we realized that we can grow and build a company like Investera, which is a family office, which is the desired goal. But we grew CT, we got that big client, and then it just kind of continued to domino from there. We got like one or two big clients. At this time, we were still cleaning everything ourselves. But then we did our first few hires, and we did not know how to hire. We had, our very first hire who literally had kids in the facility, and they were dancing on one of the tables, and it was on video, and the client sent it to us. We still have that client to this day, thank God. But issues like that, and then learning how to vet and hire people was part of the process of learning how to not be the cleaner anymore, right? Obviously, we had to grow and build out clientele so that we could hire, because we needed money, because we didn't have another business. If you already own a business, or you already have a lot of income, or you're working your job and starting your business on the side, it's pretty easy to hire right away. As a matter of fact, if you want to grow fast, that's what you do, right? Like, if with every other business that we've done from here on out after CT, we hire instantly, because we don't want to have to deliver the service, because we can't deliver the service, because we just want to worry about growth and sales and et cetera. But in the beginning, when you need the money, right? Like, if you're like, people think going to college is broke. Starting a business broke is fucking broke, dude. Like, you have no money. You have less than money. In college I was broke, but I had a job. I had a steady paycheck, and like, bills I had to pay, but like, I was fine, right? Like, I had, when you start a business broke, I mean, we're talking about spending money on ads, spending money on different softwares and stuff, and you're literally not making money. You're going backwards, which is the dangerous way to start a business. You probably should have a job, but I was a pretty very firm believer in the burn the boats method, right? Where, like, this is what's going to happen for me. I'm not going to work a job. I'm going to start a business. And so this is what I did. I went all in. I didn't have a second job. I was so broke. It was unbelievable. But, we did that, started hiring people, and it's grown from there. And we learned how to get clients and how to do that, and do different marketing tactics. And then as we realized that, hey, we want to grow and build and buy other businesses. We don't want to work in the day-to-day, which we're still working on with CT, but it's tough to build a business to that point, from the ground up, which is why acquisitions are so turnkey and successful, and frankly, easier than a startup. But that was a little bit of my story. I think when I talk about, like, getting out of the treadmill, get back on track here and talk about what I'm supposed to be, getting out of the treadmill situation where you are in the rat race of your own business. I think that people start businesses not thinking like they want another job. Like, a lot of people envision being an entrepreneur as this, like, freedom, financial freedom, and obviously just location freedom, and so many, like, freedoms that are associated with your own boss and having more money, which is completely and utterly possible. if you build it right, but most people don't, right? Because if especially in the early stages of business, you're not just busy, you're more busy than you would be if you had a regular job. And that's just the reality of the startup phase, right? Um, and to get out of that, you just need to step off the treadmill, hand off other tasks, make sure that if anything that can be done for pretty reasonably cheap is done early and often, right? Um, and the thing that's really hard for people to get around, right, is that once you offload it, it's easier for you to grow, right? People think it's like they have to hold on to this to sustain whatever they have to do here. But really, what you're doing is just trying to hold on to where you're at and not trying to go to the next level, which is really difficult because it's hard to see past, right? It's hard to see in the future. But hiring these people will allow you the time and freedom to grow your business. After you hire your first person that is uh like delivering the service. I use cleanings because it's like that's what my background's in. First time you hire cleaners and you're no longer cleaning anymore, you're stepping into more of a management type role. Um, the task still is continuous, like the different types of tasks. And basically, if anything is a $10 task or a really below a $20 task, like you should offload it fast. Um, and that's where virtual assistants really are extraordinarily helpful, able to delegate a lot of these little admin tasks that you don't need to be doing. Even like email management, like it just takes time. All these little things take a lot of time, and it's easy to offload to a VA if you know what you're doing. I will say, the people, if you're stuck in this position where you're on the treadmill and you're stuck here, um, one of the biggest things that will save you time and energy is that hire slowly and make sure you hire the right person, right? Because if you hire the wrong person, you're going to think no one can do it. But if you hire the right person, you'll be amazed at how good they are. And the other thing is that once you hire somebody, there's a period of training that you have to go through that kind of sucks, especially if you're an early business founder, because if you don't have any documented like processes down, which you really should have, you should have all your SOPs, how to do everything documented, so that when you make a hire, you know exactly how to train them to do this, or you can send them and show them these videos. Um, because when you make the first hire, like cleaning, for example, teaching somebody how to clean a facility. At the first, it feels like, oh man, this is painful. It's taking me so much longer to clean this place, blah, 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 blah. This issue, they don't do it as well. But then you train them 3 to 4 or 5 days. It's pretty easy to train somebody how to clean, right? But then you see, okay, well, they can do this job and I can go home. And the moment that happens, you're sitting at home and they're doing it. You're like, oh, all the painful training was worth it, as long as they're delivering the service at a higher level. Um, which is why then you step into stuff like quality control and management and all. But you can never deliver your service to 50 clients if you're doing all the cleaning yourself, right? You could have 5 clients and you deliver the best service in the world, but you'll never 10x your business if you don't let go. Something, if you are stuck in this position, how do you figure out how to get out of it, right? Um, One of the things I like to do is time boxing. Is spend a day or two, spend like 73 days, like 72 hours, or even a whole week, documenting what you're doing every hour. See exactly what am I spending my time here, boom, 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 boom. And do that every once in a while, every, a few months or so. And you'll really see where you're spending a lot of time. And that's how, when I was doing all the accounting work, I realized like, wow, I'm spending like 15 hours a week just doing accounting. And you don't really realize it until you document it, right? and that's why doing this is very powerful, because it's kind of sometimes you subconsciously just step into doing these things, and as they grow bigger, you kind of just continue to do them. So if you every few months you do a little time boxing and you figure out exactly how you're spending your time, that's how you figure out where you need to hire next, right? Um, The other thing that's really important, this is something I've read a lot about, and you'll hear it a lot from like Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, which is put first things first. And you really need to sit down and look at your business and say, hey, what's the most important things in my business that drive growth? If growth is what you're caring about right now. If you care about growth in your business, which almost everybody does, uh, what are the top things I need to be worrying about? And if you're not doing just those things, or you're not doing those things 80% of the time, then you need to delegate the rest of it. And that's how you step off the treadmill in a sort of way, right? And so many of these tasks are what I would call $10 tasks, right? Where you can pay somebody else who will be very happy to do it for a much lower price, and then you allow you to grow that business. I think a simple way of saying this is that you need to identify your must-dos versus your must-stops, right? What is a must-do for your business? I'll tell you, like in commercial cleaning, a must-do for me is one, probably more important than anything, is hiring the right cleaners, right? Having a world-class recruiting system is the number one issue I have in my business. It's not getting business. Getting business does matter, because you could argue that the recruiting doesn't matter unless you get business. So maybe getting business still is number one in this case. But if you want to grow in business like I have, you need to have some sort of recurring revenue. And we will only retain our clients, increase the lifetime value of our clients, if we have world-class cleaners, right? And so it's really, really, really important that we can get business, but not only can we get business, we can retain business with really good cleaners, right? And that's really important. But you need to figure out what the top things are, right? In my business, it's getting business, marketing, and getting really good cleaners, right? And if I'm not working on those things in the CT cleaners side of this business, then I shouldn't be working on it at all. Someone else should be handling it for me, because it's frankly not as important, right? And I'll go back to stepping into the SAP talk as well. I was really bad at this for a long time, and I still am. I still work on this a lot with the SOPs, because when you're a founder, especially if you build something from the ground up, usually everything's in your dome. And if it's in your head and it's not on paper, you probably are going to struggle to explain it to somebody or train somebody. And so when you're doing a process, especially an important process in your business, or just a process, like the accounting, doing something in marketing, running the ads, just cleaning in general, how to do quality control, doing a general management work, putting the schedule together, all these things should have a documented SOP. Not only an SOP, but like in the world best scenario, you have videos of yourself doing these things, and so that it can easily be shown to somebody else. Hey, this video right here, this is exactly how I did this. This is what you need to do every time you do this to get this job done. And it's really, really useful, because you hire one person and you can train this to this one person. But what happens when that person works for you for a year or two and then they quit, or they just drop off the face of the earth and they don't exist anymore? Now you have to go back and retrain that person, and you might not even remember exactly how you did it, because that person who's been doing it the way you did it before was gone. And the system and the whatever system that you needed to have done that was being done might have probably got shifted a little bit, but now it's going to get shifted a whole lot, because you don't know exactly what it was done. So it needs to be documented, exactly how you did these processes. One of the biggest things I remember learning from one of the mentors I've had is that if you don't answer your phone, problems usually solve themselves. Now, I know that kind of goes against a lot of management principles, where it's like, be available for people. But the truth is that small issues will handle themselves if you aren't there to handle them for them, somebody else. If you handle every issue for somebody else, they're going to come back to you every time, say, hey, how will you handle this for me? How do I handle this? How do I do this? How do I do that? But if you're not as accessible to them as you were before, people figure things out, problem solve themselves, and so enforce your new role as a manager, not a cleaner. Enforce your new role as a CEO, not a manager, right? And that continues to happen. I think this is a time where I would usually open this up to a stage of audience of questions and answers. And I'm learning how to do this. I got to stop saying a lot, huh? But I do say it a fair amount as I'm thinking and as I'm riffing. Maybe I need some structure. Oh, there you go again. I need some structure. I really got to work on that. I need some structure. But this is fun. It's fun to learn how to do this. It is. It's really hard not to say or huh? But it's a learning process. Being live in general is difficult. Doing a YouTube video is more structured, and you kind of sit there, you make a mistake, and you come back and you repeat it, and then it's edited out. Like everything's edited so that it's perfect, right? This is not like that at all. This is just me riffing on a live stream with no one watching, which is exciting. But this can really turn into a big show, and I think I don't want to sit here and say I know everything, right? Because I obviously don't. I'm young. I'm 28 years old. In the scheme of business, I'm very new and fresh in this industry, right? People have been doing business their entire lives, 60, 70. And those people are very well-rounded, very well-educated in the world of business. But with that said, I do know what I'm doing in business. I've been here. I've been doing this now for a long time. And this is a new step, a new evolution of my business as we try to grow a holding company rather than just this individual company as is. But learning and teaching is the greatest teacher. Is that how you say it? I don't know. What's the saying? Like, you don't learn something, basically, you don't learn something well until you become the teacher of it, right? And so that's kind of where I'm stepping into. I'm not going to sit here and say I know everything, but I'm willing to take the risk to answer questions, to get questions that I don't know the answer to, and try to figure them out and grow and learn. People have done this before, a lot of people. I think of the biggest example I think of is like the Dave Ramsey show, right? Where he goes live all the time. He does Q&As about different stuff, about business, about finances primarily in his case, right? But there's other scenarios too, where people have done this, like Pat McAfee is huge now in sports. And people do lives every day on the news, right? And so it's a skill set that people have that you need to develop that I'm working on, right? But with that said, I think I'm going to close it off here. Usually I would open the floor to questions, but no one's here right now. So what are we going to do, right? Thank you. We'll be live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 a.m. Thanks for watching, guys.